it's only been years later that I've been able to kind of get that perspective of what it meant to everybody. And now I'm coming across, children who were fans of mine back 15 years ago who are now 18 years old, reaching out on TikTok saying, "You were my childhood," etc., which is mind-blowing, but it's fantastic.
Hey friends, it's your girl Emily Curl, and right now we're here at our iHeartRadio headquarters. Today we're hanging out with artist and former member of the Wiggles. We have Sam Moran here with us. Can we give it up for Sam in our studio?
Thank you very much.
Sam, it's so nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I have to admit something. I just realized that the Wiggles were formed in Australia, and you have an Australian accent. I was not expecting that.
I do have an Australian accent. I'm not the one with the accent, though. It's you.
Oh, you think so? Yeah.
Everybody else here has the accent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're glad to have you in New York. It's good to have you here at iHeart. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started in the industry.
Yes, well, first of all, I was studying music education at the Sydney Conservatoire of Music, and that sort of brought me into an introduction with the Wiggles originally. And so I toured the world many times over with them for about 15 years.
Wow.
Then I went and did my own show with Nickelodeon in Australia, and now I've got a new album which is a little bit older and it's a little bit more emotionally, a more emotional depth to it.
Ooh, okay, we're gonna dive into that album. First, I want to go back to a second. Have you always loved working with kids? Was that always something of interest? How did you sort of get started, like you mentioned, into that?
Well, I started studying music education, so it was about expressing and teaching how to experience music and bring that into your daily life. So that was where I started, but then bringing those elements of the Wiggles into that and the entertainment part of that and combining those elements is where it really came to the fore, and I was able to make an entertaining way of bringing music education.
It's so cool to talk about music education because I feel like we all have a teacher that we loved or someone that we really gravitated towards. For you, was there someone that really inspired you, encouraged you to pursue music?
There is always little pieces along the way. There's a trumpet teacher here, a singing teacher there, but yeah, absolutely.
Your time in the Wiggles, I feel like that had to be an insane, a whole insane experience that a lot of us can't even understand. Paint the picture for me of what that looked like.
It's always hard to explain things from inside the bubble. Sometimes you don't have that perspective. So it's only been years later that I've been able to kind of get that perspective of what it meant to everybody. And now I'm coming across, children who were fans of mine back 15 years ago who are now 18 years old, reaching out on TikTok saying, "You were my childhood," etc., which is mind-blowing, but it's fantastic.
Do you still get a lot of kids that stop you in the streets that recognize you?
Every now and again, absolutely. It's what my favorite one is when the parents are so busy they're looking all around the streets, but the children recognize you, but they're frozen, and you just give them a little wave, and they're like,
they know. That's so
my
cute.
favorite.
Okay, so talking about the Wiggles, so you parted ways with the group in 2012.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that time in your life?
Well, it was around the time my first daughter was born as well, and so the changeover happened with the original lead singer coming back after actually managing his health and being able to come back for a year. And now there's a whole new set of Wiggles out there exploring the world. So during that time, I started a new show with Nick Jr. in Australia and did that for about 6 years. And so, but this new project came out of really around the pandemic and kind of evolving into a slightly older set of emotional problems in music in general.
So it's called All the Feels, the new album. Congratulations. Yes. This was really interesting reading about it. You said that you sort of wanted to bridge the age gap between not too young, but not old enough for the classic pop music. Tell me about that. I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah, we find that children are going from Cocomelon and nursery rhymes and almost straight to Taylor Swift, and when they get to about 6. And so I thought there's probably a bridge there that kind of they're obviously connecting with the pop sounds and music in that way, but there's nothing in that lyrically for them that represents their point of view of the world. So combining that pop sound with their point of view of the world was where I believe there was an opportunity to kind of bridge that gap.
How did you find out what you wanted to evoke in the album, what emotions you wanted to put in? What went into that process?
Well, that's what it's interesting. Previously, all my background's all been in preschool music, so the emotions you explore is really just joy and happy. And so when you get to exploring a little bit older, it's when children start school that they start experiencing different emotions and some more difficult emotions as well, and so some often for the first time. So back in 2015, I was diagnosed with depression myself, and so during that period, I had to kind of reassess and really reconnect with what I was feeling and try and relearn those things myself. And so hearing reports out of the pandemic that these children were, after being not in close contact with their peers, they were experiencing something similar and not understanding what emotions they were feeling and not being able to express those. And so diagnoses of anxiety had skyrocketed, et cetera, especially in that age group. So I thought this was a great opportunity to try and represent all those different emotions in a musical way to help them identify what they're feeling.
First off, that's powerful. Yeah. And I feel like it's very much needed. How did you go about bridging the emotion, like to the music, to the production? Like how did that process work?
Well, fortunately, coming from my background in children's music, it was a way of really making sure that each emotion's represented musically so that it really does help the child identify what they're feeling, be able to connect with it. The important thing was I'm not trying to tell children how to feel or even, how to get through certain things. It's really just helping them identify what they're feeling.
And you're a girl dad yourself.
So yes.
Yeah, you're a girl. So how old are your kids?
I have got a 13-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Okay, so you have the whole spectrum. You have the whole spectrum of emotions.
So this album kind of is bridging that gap as well.
Do they get to hear the songs for, like, what did they think of the album?
They are always my test audience. If it doesn't pass that test, it's not going to pass the bigger test, for sure.
That's so funny. What for you is your favorite part of being a girl dad?
Oh, it's something that really gets you emotionally. It's how to express that. That I should write an album about that. How to express that, because that is tricky.
That's going to be the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Well, they're at iHeart, we're always talking about going back to school. We have a lot of parents and teachers that watch our content. What advice would you give to those watching of getting ready to go back to school? Any tips and tricks you can tell parents for that?
It's one of those things that the child is obviously experiencing some anxiety about starting. Some of the children will be starting school for the first time, and so there's going to be anxiety around that. But also kind of excitement as well, probably about looking forward to it. So really it's just, I would say for a parent to really just look at it from the child's point of view and really connect with them and ask them how they're feeling and talk them through their feelings and see if they're able to convey what they're feeling, if they are able to convey it, and if not, try and lead that conversation through them.
Interesting. For instance, for your daughter, if she was feeling anxious about school, how do you even begin to have those conversations? Like, are there tips and tricks or like good questions to ask kids that help them express that in that way?
I think it's really just talking to them one-on-one and really just kind of positioning yourself where they are and coming at it on their level, so that you understand. Basically to express that you understand how they're feeling and you validate their emotions, and it's validating that there's nothing wrong with what they're feeling.
Yeah.
That it's very common, we all feel these things.
Yeah.
But it's how we process that and how we get through that it's important.
I love that. Also, one of our producers on the team, hi Dylan, just had a new baby girl. She's the cutest. So coming from you obviously have a 3-year-old. Any advice for new dads is getting into this new
especially
chapter?
dads of a girl, they're going to break. You're going to fall in love every day, but you're also going to have your heart broken every day. And it's a constant roller coaster ride.
I love it. I love it. Shout out to Jules and Dylan. Well, I love that, Sam. We're so excited for this album. It's such a cool concept. And you said you're back in New York. You're already working on new music.
I am.
What
Absolutely.
can you tell us? Give us a little rundown.
Well, no, I won't give too much away right now. You'll have to, all the feels first.
All the feels first. I love it. Well, Sam, thank you so much for being here. So great chatting with you. Can you give it up one more time for Sam in our studio? Make sure you listen to Sam's album, All the Feels, out now on iHeartRadio, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Did you like that video? You can check out more over here, and don't forget to subscribe to iHeart right here. And if you're already a longtime fan, make sure you ring the bell down below so you don't miss a single video. See you next time.